Is this is this kind of what you're hoping to get out of it, or is this more than what you were expecting?
This is definitely more than I expected.
I'm loving it. I'm like, well, this is better than any realtor that I've ever interviewed with. You know.
Oh, there's the clickbait right there.
There you go.
So, hey, I always like to start off these with just, I've got kind of a couple of things that I like to go in order, but I find that it's best just to ask you what is going to make this meeting like a rock star, knock it out of the park, get the questions answered, because everybody comes from a different kind of set of understandings. They've bought houses before, haven't bought houses before, and so I want to make sure that I'm covering exactly what you will find helpful. So why don't you kind of give me what you'd like to go over today?
All in all, we're pretty well versed in buying houses up in New York.
Okay.
She basically had a realtor's license up here, but in terms of Virginia condo boards, HOAs, things like that, not terribly familiar in the state of Virginia.
Okay.
I'll be coming down in December or January, if not sooner, depending on what we find, to attend PA school for 2.5 years, 3 years.
Gotcha. You're going to EVMS, is that right?
Yes.
Cool. All right. The majority of condo associations here, because we also have co-ops, they're not as popular. There's just not that many co-ops here. They can be a lot more restrictive when it comes to like who you can allow renting. I don't know of a single co-op that allows for like short-term rentals, if that's something that you're considering.
I stayed in an apartment in downtown, and she had offered me, I'll get in contact if you get accepted. We'll figure out if you could, what a rental would look like.
Right.
To rent that apartment from her. But there's no parking. I'd have to use public parking, and I'm like, I'm not using public parking for 2.5, 3 years. It's
Sure.
not gonna happen.
Sure.
Now, if he found a 2-bedroom condo,
Mm-hmm.
and it's in his name,
Mm-hmm.
like we have a condo in Florida, but we're not allowed to have somebody stay with us long term unless they go through the investigation and become part of the condo.
Okay.
And we completely disagree with those rules. But, does Virginia have something similar to that?
Now, regulation, they're always, anytime you get under contract, they're going to order new condo docs, because legally you have to have the most recent ones just in case there's any possible change. And then you have 3 days from the receipt of those to back out of a contract. It might be regulations due to who you can rent it out to and what those leases or sublets look like. You could go, hey, I don't want to really adopt those problems, or I don't, we were under the assumption with the previous condo docs that this was going to be allowed, but now that we have the official ones in, it looks like that's not actually the case. You would still have the ability to back out and get your earnest money deposit back in full. All right, so how familiar are you with our area?
We know where the hospital is.
Yep.
All right.
Been there, done that. That's the campus.
So this area right here that you're in, where that little blue dot is, the North Ghent Historic District, and then to the right of that, Ghent Square, to the slight south of that, Neon District, into the slight south of that, which is called Freemason. If you go north into West Ghent and Chelsea, and then all of that-ish is Ghent. It's going to change a little bit on look and feel street to street. If you haven't already, any place that you do see that you like, it's going to be really helpful for you to go down in that bottom left-hand corner where it says Street View. Now this is Ghent, so there are going to be quite a few homes where people are parking on the street. That's just the reality of this area. So Ghent, much like any other area that is highly desirable or it has really high competition on rents and purchase, your margins typically aren't going to be as good. If you know anything about A, B, C, and D level investment properties, or they call D class, the lower the class, typically the turnover is higher, the tenants aren't quite as good, the damage they inflict is a little bit higher, but the margins in the ROI tend to be a little bit higher. So this is what I would definitely consider A class for the most part, especially if it's in really good condition. So I just would expect lower ROI on your numbers here, just to give you some understanding there. Okay.
Which towns would you consider B class? Because that's what I usually invest in.
So if you're looking for the highest amount of appreciation, there's a lot of B, C class in Park Place, potentially some D class in Park Place. Like Park Place has come a very, very long way over the span of 15 and 20 years. So what I would say is, unless you have lived here Yes, I think that there are some places in Park Place that I personally wouldn't mind owning a place, especially if I knew it was going to be a rental long term, because I think it has some of the highest potential for appreciation over the next decade over many other places
Gotcha.
in Norfolk. Okay, but if you want to go with a safer bet, a place that has established desirability and established like buying trends, Colonial Place, Larchmont, which
Yeah,
is
that's
north of
cool.
Colonial Place, Riverview, those are good options. Highland Park is going to be a lot of student housing, a lot of student housing. Lambert's Point, a
Yeah.
lot of student housing. And so unless you
Yeah,
want to deal
that's
with
all-
parties, you want to kind of stay away from that.
Yeah, that was all marked off as part of the ODU kind of neighborhood.
Yep. Neon District is a little bit more of like shopping. There are some apartment buildings in there. Arts District, super kind of cool and hip. But effectively, if you stay, I would argue anything west of Monticello and south of the train tracks, and there are a lot of great options in there. It's going to be hard to go wrong.
Okay.
All right.
And I think that his schedule is gonna be such that he wants to be as close to the school as possible.
Yeah,
which is
I mean,
why-
even if you were up there as close to the train tracks as possible and close to Monticello as possible, I don't know if you ride a bike or not, but like that's not that far of a commute.
I will once I move down there.
Yeah, one of my
How do you do with snow and the street being cleared?
There's no snow. It's Virginia.
I went there I took a computer crunch course there, and you guys had snow, and the whole town shut down.
fair enough.
Yeah, that's what I was
So
told.
that's the beauty, is it probably will shut down. It is helpful to, I mean, that's great, right? You get a day off. So
Right.
my kids love it. I mean, if you have a Subaru or all-wheel drive, that's going to be helpful. It's not very common here. It's like one season you get no snow, and the next season you get like a random 8-inch pour down, and everything shuts down for 3 or 4 days.
When things are listed, how long are they staying on? Generally?
Yeah.
It was so hot for so long.
Yeah, so that was going to be the next kind of category that I wanted to jump in. So typically it's timing, price point, and then I want to kind of go over some market stats. So if you're okay, we can jump into that now if you'd like. Okay, so what I'm going to go over here is a little bit of kind of start at 30,000 feet, get a little dialed in, and then talk specifically about Ghent in that market. All right, so this is our market, all properties, all areas, going all the way back to 2004. If you remember back in 2004 up to 2007, we had the housing market kind of went nuts. And then we realized, there's a whole bunch of loans that shouldn't have been written in the first place to people that couldn't afford it. And all of that was turned around and resold as investment products to investments and pensions. And then a lot of people lost their investments as well. It took us a little while to recover from that. In 2012 in our area is the year that kind of things kind of finally found a settling point. And then from 2012 to about 2018, 2019, we saw about normal appreciation, about 3.5% to 4%, which is what you average would see across the nation at all price points. The Case-Shiller inflation adjusted index, I think, is like 3.2 or 3.3% or something along those lines, right? Then COVID happened, right? Right around March of 2020. We said, oh my gosh, the world is shutting down. And if I was a betting man, I would have said, holy crap, I'm about to lose all my money and I'm going to go out of business. And so if I go over here and I look at listings, active listings, I can see from 2004 to 2007, we had a skyrocketing market, tons and tons of new construction, right? Couldn't build them fast enough. And what's interesting is, even though the market, our prices were going up, we still had a ton of houses, which just means that we had way too many people, way too many buyers that shouldn't have been in the market, okay? What ended up happening between 2007 and 2012 is, we had short sales and foreclosures, the housing market went down, and eventually we found, again, that settling point right around 2012. So 2020, right? And at the beginning of 19, I'm like, cool, inventory, it used to be, so I was talking to a seller, I'm like, hey, look, it used to be a little bit more balanced. It was like 12, 13, 14,000 listings. We're right now at 8. That's like 50% less. Well, at the beginning of this year, so if you've watched the YouTube channel for any period of time, at the beginning of this year, one of my first market updates was, hey, we have a severe inventory problem, like big time. We do not have enough homes. 3,300, 3,600 homes on the market is a fifth of what is normal, right? And I kind of said, look, unless interest rates rise by 2, 3, or even 4%, right? So up to 7%, which in historical context is kind of normal. We're gonna have a big issue this year. If interest rates stay low, inventory is even lower, 2022 could be a big problem, right? There's only so many people out there that have the cash to write appraisal guarantees, waive inspections, go up and above list price. Well, what ended up happening is inflation went out of control. The Fed basically said, hey, the only way we can combat this is by rising interest rates. And anytime you rise interest rates, you decrease on that supply-demand curve the demand. Kind of back here, you can see inventory is rising, right? There's always a cycle. You can see the cycles, from summer to winter and that type of thing. But we're rising here. My guess, if I had to kind of pull out my crystal ball, which mine's just as good as yours is, what I would say is, if I'm a betting man, my guess is that we're probably going to see 6, 7, 8% appreciation this year, because I still think there's enough demand. There's a lot more buyers in the market. The amount of first-time home buyers in the millennial age group is more than the previous generation by about 20%. Interest rates, even though they have risen, there's still a lot of people that want to get in. The people that are in the market are very serious buyers. They're not people that are only in the market because interest rates were so low. So I think we're going to see 6 to 8% this year. I think next year is probably going to be 2 to 4%. And then if I had to guess, the next year is probably going to be 1 to 2. I think we're going to kind of see a plateau effect. It's very much probably, like you can see, they're building like crazy here. This still took from 2005 January to 2007 January. It took 2 years to get here. I think it's going to take years for us to catch up.
Right.
All right. So you had asked median days on market. So let's look very specifically. So we're in Norfolk, and we're going to narrow it to, let's just say, 150 to 300. I can see that it has been rising since April. Makes sense, right? Rising interest rates, but it wasn't until April that we started seeing about 4.25. But since, and that was kind of where the price sensitivity started kicking in, like, ooh, 4.5, ooh, 5%, right? And you can see that average days on market's been rising since then. So like we just got,
You have the competition where people are outbidding each other on the homes. Like homes here have been selling for generally about 50 grand over asking.
So again, here's the data, right? In this price point in this area is that everything that went under contract at 101.8%. So yes,
There you go.
right? It's happening. That being said, when I am talking to someone, I go, hey, look, this doesn't mean that you're going to pay 102% of the list price. But if it's a great condo in a really good area of town and it's in perfect condition and there's 5 other offers, your question would be foolishly to me, hey, Dan, will they accept 10 grand less than list price? Your question of will they cover closing costs would be a little bit short-sighted, right? But if they've been sitting for 30 days on the market, and you and I are looking at this data, and we're the only ones bidding, all right, well, that's a different conversation. So I pay for a piece of software called Focus First, also known as visual pricing software. And so what I do is I go into the MLS, and I don't really care what neighborhood I'm in. This relationship always exists. There's always a relationship between square footage and purchase price, okay?
Right.
And what I love about this software is it makes it very visually easy to tell, with barely even walking through the property, are they priced at least close to what they should be? All right, so every sale, last 6 months, blue is sold, orange is under contract, green can be either active or active with a home inspection contingency in place, okay? So what I see here is at 2,000 square feet, there is a relationship at 2,000 square feet that the bottom of the market and the top of the market. At 3,000 square feet, you have the top of the market and the bottom of the market. And 90% of the sales is in this corridor, right? Occasionally, you'll get these little outliers where, like this was obviously something that was ugly inside, right? Terrible condition, right? But most of the home sales are in this corridor. And I love this, right? So if we go here and we see this house, let's just say I either do a virtual tour with my phone or we go see it in person and we're like, man, this is really nice inside. And then we come look at the visual pricing software, we go, well, that makes sense. They're priced probably right where they need to be, right? Now, if it's this house right here, or actually let's do this one right here. And it's 5 days on market, right? And we're like, it's actually pretty good inside. And we're going, all right, why in the world are they priced so low? Like, what is going on here? The longer it's on market, the more people are just like, why has it been sitting so long? What's wrong with it, right? Doesn't matter if there's nothing wrong with it. Market sentiment says, well, they're on market for 60 days. I see the average is 14. There must be something wrong with it. It could be.
Every time he shows me something and I said, nope, it's on the market for 53 days, there's something wrong. Somebody found something.
Yeah. Just want to make sure that you know this before you get under contract. They do their own home inspection, back out for similar reasons, and now you're sitting on the market for 35 days and you're like, oh, good Lord, this is totally normal and should be, should be under contract and sold already. But just like you said, market sentiment is the longer it's sitting on the market, the more there's likely something wrong with it, even though. And so there are situations that happen like this. So I've had it where I was like, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, this easily should be up here, another $40,000, $50,000 higher. Let's just say for whatever reason, it's first or second day on market, and we're bidding against other people. And the people that we're bidding against are not paying attention to this data. All right. Well, we could probably pay $20,000, $30,000, or $40,000 over list price in this category because we're talking about the difference between 520 and 620 here in this category. And the appraisal could even come up above what our offer is, simply because of what's going on in the market. And this is why I say, like, first you pay attention to the data in the market. Second, you look at the house in the neighborhood, and third, you and I talk about your unique situation. So. The appraisal guarantee is effectively a guarantee up front before you even get to that point that you'll bring cash to the table. All right? So the more competitive the property, the more likely that is to happen. The less competitive the property, the less likely that is a tool that you'll have to bring into play.
Okay.
Cool. Mama Bear, am I speaking your language?
Yes, I
Okay.
understand it.
Cool.
I understand it. She just definitely gets it better.
You
than
just kind of, no, yeah. Cool. All right, so.
I understand the graph, I understand the relationships and all that stuff. I'm following along so
Cool.
far pretty well.
Awesome.
We didn't lose them yet.
Is this kind of what you're hoping to get out of it, or is this more than what you were expecting?
This is definitely more than I expected.
I'm loving it. I'm like, well, this is better than any realtor that I've ever interviewed with.
Oh, there's the clickbait right there.
There you go.
I love it. I love it. So, I mean, I just think, it's funny that you say that. I think that there is a tendency in the real estate world to not take your job very seriously. It is one of the few industries where the barrier to entry is so low and you can get by not being very good. Let me talk a little bit about process here. So are we looking at, hey, Dan, I'm totally cool with virtual tours, or do you guys only want to do things in person?
Virtual tours, predominantly. Anything that wants to get finalized, most likely will take a ride down.
Okay. Because of the YouTube channel and because we have a high transitory area with military, we do a lot of that. A whole bunch, actually. We use a software called Loom, where I can record on my phone a virtual tour. And it makes it really nice, so you and I don't have to perfectly coordinate our schedules. You can watch it over and over and over again. If before I go, if you want some specific, hey Dan, will you please just get a video snapshot of the HVAC serial tag because I want to look up what year it is or something along those lines.
Right.
Hey, make sure you get the alleyway or show the parking. As long as we do that before, again, because I can go out and let's just say my schedule allows for me to be there tomorrow at 2, I can just go do that, send it off to you, and you can watch it over and over again. So next steps. Next steps will just be 2 things. One is going to be, I'm going to put you in a group chat with me and my brother. We work together as a team in many ways. Bradley is probably going to do the majority of the virtual tours. He's a little bit newer in the business, and so I get to shove some of that stuff onto his plate. And then in that group chat, you're going to have 2 videos. One to show you how to tell whether something is under contract or not, because Trulia, Zillow, and Realtor.com don't really care about the accuracy. They're just trying to keep your eyeballs on their website. And so we'll kind of show you how to tell whether something is under contract. 2 is going to be a little bit more of a deep dive into the pricing analysis and how to kind of do some of that. And then the 3rd link is going to be a HomeSnap website. So if you prefer to look at homes on an app, it'll show you whether it's on a contract there. Or you can double check if you think Zillow's easier to look. You can just go plug the address into the HomeSnap and see whether it's under contract or not. The Third thing I'm going to do after that is I'm going to send you an email introducing you to Rachel. So if you want to use a local lender, you can talk to her and do it that way. You can use any lender you want to use, but if you want to see what she can do for you and kind of give a similar consult on the financing side, that's what she does, and she can do that for you. And then as soon as you have a question, the best place to put questions is just in that group chat. As you can see in the real world of filming, sometimes the elements don't always play in your favor. Got a great opportunity to meet a new YouTube client. If you'd love to be a client, again, the link below is down in the description, and you'll get to see myself, probably Sean a little bit, and maybe even Rachel for all in the office at the same time. Till next time, see you later.